Welcome everybody to Train Tuesday. I'm your host Jim Wiggin, and man, have I got some great stuff to talk to you about today. We've got locomotives, we've got freight cars, we're talking HO scale, we're talking N scale, we're talking 70s, 80s, 90s, and even beyond that. But before we get started, let's see who's hanging out with us. I've got comments going on my right, your left. Let's see who we have joining us today. We've got David Fry, D'Angelo, Brennan, Ryan, Steve, we've got Gary, we've got Mr. Derek Glass, Troy, Michael, the CSS Rail fan. Thank you guys for joining us. We got some great stuff to talk about today. You N scale guys, got some stuff for you. Of course, we're never going to forget the HO scale guys. We've got some great stuff, both that we're going to talk about for pre-order till the end of this month. And I've also got a surprise for you guys right here in the studio. So before we get started, let's see if we can get some more shout outs and see who else is joining us. Let's see, I've got Carl, Mark, Ted, Matt, Miguel, Joseph, Anthony. Looks like we've got a full house here. We've got folks coming in from Perth, Brisbane, Australia. We've got some folks coming in from Canada. Looks like we've got some folks coming in from both the East Coast, the West Coast, and all the way down to Florida. So we've got a great show for you guys here. And let me tell you what we've got for the month of August. Now, last month we talked about the Genesis 50th anniversary P42s. And this month we're going to be talking, or this week rather, we're going to be talking a little bit about the ready to roll locomotives that we've got available for pre-order. So let me go ahead and get this started. So all of my fans out there, go ahead, put your hobby knife down, adjust your seat in the proper position, and grab the beverage of your choice and sit back. Let's enjoy some new offerings for this month. And like I said, I've got a surprise for you in the studio as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what we're working on for this month. And here we have it. So we've got the SD38s. And the SD38, obviously 6-axle road switcher, came out by Electromotive Division May of 1967. They were in production until about 1971. And it's a 16-cylinder EMD 645. And we're offering some roads that we haven't really done before. And let's talk about those roads real quick. Well, the first one I've got here is, it's an ex-Conrail unit. And you can see here it's going to include the M3 horn, the large fuel tank. It's a 2009 repaint, and it has the website logo. Now, this is the Reading and Northern. It's a really cool line. This is former Pennsylvania territory, former Conrail territory. So it's fitting that this ex-Conrail locomotive would find itself on this road. Real eye-catching paint scheme. And again, if you're operating 2009 on up, this is the perfect locomotive for that. We didn't stop there, though. We went ahead and offered the same railroad, but in a slightly different era, slightly different paint scheme. Here's number 2003. This was in celebration of the 20th year of operation. This is a short line that's still actually doing quite well for itself right now. Now, this one is different. This is an ex-DT&I locomotive. And which also means it's a former GTW, and we'll talk about those in a moment. This has the P3 horn. It has a smaller fuel tank, silver frame, stripe, and trucks, and also this was a fresh repaint. Now, slightly different than the one that I showed you for 2009 plus. This one's going back just a little bit to 2003. Just goes to show you what our developers have to do. A small railroad like this, we've offered this in these road numbers, and you can see the subtle differences between the two locomotives. Even though they're the same locomotive, they have different paths, and because of that, the details are different, and that's what the developers have done here for you. So really cool paint scheme. This is more of a modern day locomotive. Now let's go to the Wayback Machine. Let's go back to 1986. Let's go to Grand Trunk Western. We were just talking about them with the Reading. Now this is a full repaint. Basically what this means, this was a former DTI locomotive. Grand Trunk bought them out, and they completely repainted this locomotive in the Grand Trunk corporate scheme. The standard EMT exhaust, a small front plow, and it has a regular 81-inch nose. Again, these are ready to roll, but that doesn't mean they lack a lot of detail. There's actually a lot of detail that we're packing into these models. Slightly less detailed than, say, a Genesis locomotive, but certainly not short on the value as far as what you're getting for your modeling budget. Now, that's not the only one that we did. We're doing some prime for grime in this series. Check this one out. This is a patch job. You can definitely tell it was a former DT&I. It's got that DT&I orange, albeit faded. And they just took the GT Morrissey orange and just painted over it, put in their large corporate logo on the long hood, painted up the battery box, painted up the cab door, and went ahead and applied the road number on it. So this is 1986 plus, same year as the regular refreshed, repainted one. So you can have these two working together in your yard. You can have them in the same consist, no problem. Even though they're completely different looking, they're from the same era. The slightly different details on this one than the first one that we talked about. This one not only has the patch of the faded colors, but this features the large Y-style spark arresters. You can probably see them there. And it also has an original nose bell and no plow. So again, same railroad, different details. Sometimes depending on how they were ordered from the original railroad or if things were added on throughout the years of its service. We'll go back about 10, 11 years now, and these Bessemer locomotives are incredibly, just a sharp paint scheme. Now, one thing I do want to say is we are listening to you guys. There's going to be some artwork updates on these as we go. We're always listening to you guys, and we want to make sure that we get these right for you, the customers. So these aren't the final artwork. There's going to be some small revisions to this. But to give you an idea, this is how this locomotive would have looked in 2010. Now this one features a Leslie 3-chime horn. It's got the black painted left side walkway, front and rear ditch lights, which that's important, and they do function. Battery danger decals, modern loop-style coupler cut lever. And if you don't know what that is, if you look at the very front of the locomotive on the pilot, you'll see the cut lever, which opens up the coupler. In the old days, that was just a straight piece of steel. Well, the modern day ones are more of a square loop or almost a square D looking type. And this one features that because when this was originally made, that type of cut lever did not exist. So here's a really interesting one. This is an XDMIR, and a little bit different than all the ones that we've shown so far. It has a short fuel tank. It has triple class brakes, the M3 horn, Union Pacific style plows, all-weather windows, which we've added, ditch lights on both ends, and it's technically classified as an SD38 AC. So it's had a little bit of rebuild in its life. If memory serves me correct, this is a former Conrail unit, going way back. And this is appropriate for 2015 plus, so not really that old. This is pretty much a current day locomotive. Now, speaking of Conrail, for you guys that are modeling the mid-90s, especially if you're doing Northeast stuff, this is what you need. This is the smaller Q logos that they used just before they got separated. The smaller Q Conrail logo is prominently shown on the long hood. You also have the small EMD plow, the Leslie 3-chime horn, Sinclair antenna, and the rear brake wheel triple class brakes. And this is, if you know anything about Conrail, you'll know what the lineage of this locomotive was. It was originally a Penn Central locomotive. Conrail did a great job of taking a lot of the locomotives they had from the Penn Central and other railroads and bringing them up to standards. And this one is basically a fresh repaint in this paint scheme. And again, this is mid-1990s. So if you're modeling the Northeast in the mid-1990s, this would be a great locomotive for you to pick up. Now, as with all good things, and I know there's some Conrail fans out there, all good things must come to an end. And of course, we all know what happened. Conrail was split up between CSX and Norfolk Southern, but we've decided to offer Norfolk Southern for you guys that are modeling 2009 on up. And these patch jobs that we've been doing have been a real success. A lot of you guys have been asking for them. And so we're offering these in 2 different versions for Norfolk Southern. Take a real close look. You can definitely see it's the same paint scheme as what we saw just previously from the mid-1990s. But this has got the black patch with white numbers. The Conrail blue has been faded. Some of the same details from its Conrail era are still there. The triple class brakes, the large fuel tank, the rear mounted Leslie 3-chime horn, front ditch lights, cab roof antenna, and of course the prime AC and no plow. Likewise, we have another Norfolk Southern patch. This one has the white patch applied to it with the small NS right underneath the numbers. And it's a little bit different. Still the same lineage, but it's a white patch with black numbers, faded paint. We're trying out a new faded paint effect. We're hoping that will really capture the look of the prototype. Triple class brakes, large fuel tank, rear-mounted Leslie 3-chime horn, front ditch lights, angled cab roof antenna, prime AC, and small EMD plow. Now remember, just on these 2, the ditch lights are on the front, not the rear. Even though it's a Norfolk Southern, it's not going to have the ditch lights on the back, which is pretty common with Norfolk Southern prototype stuff. So if you're a Conrail fan or a Norfolk Southern fan, you're modeling 1990s on up, these 3 locomotives would be a good subject matter for you to pick up. So remember earlier we were talking about the DTI, and here's one of them. Now we're offering them in different versions, different years. We're offering them pretty much as they appeared in the 1970s. Really good shape. They're really nice DTNI orange. The ACI labels are applied to them. Some of these locomotives too, I did want to point out that they're going to have strobe light functions, but because the size of these strobe lights, you're going to have them available separately within the box. You're going to have to put them on yourself. One thing too, before I go any further with the DTI, I want to let you know that you, the modelers, have addressed something. Let me go back one page here. The 2 former Conrail units that are working for Norfolk Southern now, we have done gotten some input from you guys. They will feature the larger intake grills. So I want to thank you guys for reaching out and contacting our developers and saying, hey, this is a detail that you might want to fix. You don't see it in the artwork, but it will be adjusted when the finished models get to your door. So back to the DTNI. Really cool locomotive. This is basically the OG locomotive. This would go on to serve GTW and go even further then. But this is pretty much how it appeared from the factory when it was ordered. This one, however, is a weathered version as it appeared probably in the 1980s, just before the GTW took a hold of it. So if you look carefully, you can see above the D that real, chipped paint effect, which is something else that we've been working on with our Prime for Grime. We're going to be using this unique weathered version with peeling paint, faded paint, and it's going to have the large can-style spark arresters as well as the all-weather windows. So this is just one of the DTNIs we're doing. We're also doing 1970s. If you want to see more, you can go to Athearn.com, go into the new announcements, and select the ready-to-roll SD38s. Hopefully you guys are excited about this. This is something that I know you guys have been requesting. Ready to roll. Does really well for guys that are just wanting to do some prototype operations. Maybe they're not so key on the details as much as, say, a Genesis unit, or maybe you want to add your own details. It's up to you, but the ready to roll line certainly lets you do that, and we're still giving you a lot of functions that this model has not had in the past, one of which is the working ditch lights. So I'm going to go through here and just going to see if anybody had any questions on there. Looks like people are really happy to see these. Anthony wants to know, I'm going to grab his question here real quick. Getting all 3 Conrails, when will they be released? Okay, so Anthony, great question. What you want to do is you have till the end of this month. It's the 27th. It's Friday. Get with your dealer, get with your online retailer, whoever you use, and say, hey, I want to order these 3 Conrail units. The 1 Conrail unit as delivered, or I'm sorry, as a fresh repaint, as well as the Norfolk Southern patch jobs of the Conrail. Order through your dealer, and these are expected to arrive about next year at this time. It's about a 1-year lead time. So expect to see these in late summer, early fall of 2022. All right, so that's not the only diesel that we're talking about. And like I said, hang around N-scale, guys. I've got some N-scale to show you too. So you'll remember last month we had a really great month with some Amtrak surfliners. And of course, this month we're introducing the Genesis 50th anniversary P42s. We felt it would be necessary to do both in the Ready to Roll HO line as well as Athearn N, the F59 PHIs. Now these are, like I said, available in both scales, and they both are available with or without sound. Now in N scale, that's pretty important thing. It's relatively recent for N scale to get a factory equipped sound model, but we're going to go ahead and do it that way. Here we've got your standard Amtrak paint scheme. And then we did 2 special ones. We did the B-Track Smart. This is a special paint scheme that Amtrak, in collaboration with Union Pacific, BNSF, some other corporations, basically for grade crossing safety. As you know, where the Amtrak surfliner does go, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic, and modern day locomotives are not as noisy as they were in the past. There's been a lot of, unfortunately, horrible accidents of pedestrians either using tracks as a walkway or just not paying attention and crossing them at the wrong time. And Amtrak wanted to make people more aware that with there's tracks, there's probably a train. So just best to play it smart, stay off the tracks, and just look out for any dangers that may happen. So remember, if there's tracks, doesn't necessarily mean they're abandoned, even if they're rusty. There's a possibility of a train, and you don't want to take your life in your hands. So they went ahead and did this really attractive paint scheme. We're going to be offering this in both the HO Ready to Roll and the Athearn N scale. Now, everybody was asking last month when we came out with the surfliners, are you going to do something for the surfliners? Well, here we have it. For you HO guys in the Ready to Roll, we will be doing the Amtrak California paint scheme. So you'll have a complete set now. Now we are doing some detail upgrades. I'll tell you more about it as we get closer to their release, but this isn't exactly the same Ready to Roll locomotive that we introduced last time. This is going to have a few little upgrades that we're going to put in there, and the N scale again is going to come with sound. Now, N scale guys, I know what you're asking. Are you going to do the surfliners in N scale? And there's been talk about doing that. We're really excited about how pleased you guys are with the surfliners in HO. We're going to take a look and see, and if it's possible, we'd like to do them in N scale. But right now, I don't have a firm answer on that. So you're going to have to stay tuned to our social media and, of course, Train Tuesday to see if that's going to happen. But HO guys, you've got the Amtrak California here in HO scale and with sound. And we didn't stop there with the HO and the N-scale F59s. Metra, which is not too far from here, up in the Chicago area, they have pretty much taken over the commuter railroads ever since Burlington and later Burlington Northern cut out, Rock Island. Those regional railroads had cut out of the inner city transportation. Metra is usually known for their bright blue and red locomotives. And of course, the F59 is a staple of their fleet. A while back, they did a Chicago Northwestern kind of a heritage scheme, and it was an instant success to the point where they wanted to do more. So the developers got to thinking, if they did the Chicago Northwestern, what if they did some other regional railroads? And so part of the legendary liveries, we're offering a few different models that could very well happen in the Metro line. So these aren't too far from the plausible. Not only we have the Chicago Northwestern, which does exist. What if there was a Milwaukee Road? Well, certainly in the Hiawatha paint scheme like this, that would be an eye-catching locomotive. Certainly the colors on the F59 work really well. Everything in the placement of this, right down to the original Milwaukee Road logo, everything fits just right. Is it plausible? Absolutely. Yeah, it's possible that Metro would do something like this. We'll just have to wait and see. But until then, if you want one in HO or N scale, it's part of our legendary liveries. Now, anybody in Illinois knows a little bit about Rock Island, and Rock Island is another one that maybe they would do. And so here we present to you the legendary liveries version of a Metra Rock Island tribute locomotive. Real eye-catching fire engine red with the yellow and the white, real high visibility paint scheme. Just a really cool paint scheme. And again, could it happen? It could. Will it happen? I can't guarantee it will, but until then, if you want one for your HO and N scale layout, we're going to offer this under the legendary liveries. We did some regional stuff as well in both HO and N. Here we've got the North Carolina transit system. We also have MetroLink in that kind of a cool purple lilac color. And then for N scale, we're going to be doing some tank cars. I remember last week we talked about the Genesis tank cars, the LPG tank cars. We're doing those in N scale as well. And believe it or not, the N scale models, sure, they're never going to have the same detail as a Genesis model, mainly because of pure physics. There's so many different detail parts that you can put on a 1/87 scale car that just don't translate well to an N scale car. But for their size, these are going to be very detailed N scale tank cars. Not to mention they're going to have metal wheel sets and body mounted couplers, which we've talked about it on this program before, just make operations that much better and smoother. What I've done here though, is I want you guys of the modern era to know where these tank cars fall in. And we've got something for everybody that's modeling the 1990s all the way to current day. We have the Union tank car here, which is very acceptable for 2002 on up. I have another Union tank car also available, and that is for 2002 on up. Again, 2002 on up. Slightly newer, slightly different design, slightly different markings on it to reflect its era, but here's one for 2005. And remember, a lot of these can still be seen on the rails now. It really wasn't that long ago, if you think about it. Going back, not quite to the Wayback Machine, but going back a little bit, 1997, the Pro Car. You can definitely see some difference if I scroll between the two cars of what we consider modern day compared to just a few years back, the difference. So if you're modeling N scale in the 1990s all the way to modern day, and especially if you're doing something like Fremo N, you're doing N-Track, even T-Track, these are great models for any of those modular type activities. If you've got a home scale layout, or if you're part of a club and you've got an N scale layout at your club, these are perfect for those. If you've got a small switching layout, and maybe you've got a propane dealer on your layout, these are, again, perfect for that. There are many examples out there that you can look through Google Earth of finding examples of suburban propane stations throughout the country, or even FS stations that do have a spur and still get occasional rail service. And sometimes they'll only get one or two cars at a time, but it's just enough to make a switching operations on your layout or your switching layout that much more interesting. All right, I'm going to roll over to the comments section here real quick and see what we've got going on. Let's see. Got some guys that are really happy about some of the stuff that we're coming out. No kits. I see Terry's question about what kits. I don't know of any kits that we're doing right now. Oops. Cole, I meant to grab you here. Cole, hey, Athearn, any suggestions to do more Athearn Ready to Roll SD40-2s? Maybe how about some Norfolk Southern X Norfolk and Western Thoroughbred paint schemes, and also the Horsehead paint schemes, Norfolk Southern former X Conrail and the blue paint schemes. Yeah, SD40-2s. Yeah, it's a great suggestion. I hope you used our email address over there at the Athearn Contact Us page, product suggestions at athearn.com. Throw that in there if you haven't already. We would appreciate that. Let's see what else we've got. Here's one from Joseph. I hear your parts department is going away. Is that true? Absolutely not. In fact, last Friday, maybe 2 Fridays ago, I actually went down there, took a look, and everything has been moved from California. It's been systematically arranged and organized. Everything is organized, and things are slowly getting up to speed. So no, we are not giving up our parts department. These locomotives, these freight cars, even the non-revenue cars, they have so many details to them that accidents happen. We know you're going to need replacement parts. If you do need replacement parts, go to our contact us page at athearn.com and fill out the information as required there, and we will get back to you. Now, keep in mind, since the move, we do have a backlog, so we're just asking for a little bit of patience while we catch up. But no, we definitely have the parts department still around. Let's see. We are still working on the SD60M repair kits. They are here. We're just waiting to get a few more things done on our homepage, but when it's finished, you'll be able to go to athearn.com, select the repair kit for your SD60M, and it's real simple. And actually, that's a good question, because be staying attention on our social media, and of course, Train Tuesday, you're going to be seeing more about that repair and how to do it. It's a really simple repair. Our developers have been hard at work getting that all done and lined up. Now it's just a matter of us getting it on the website, getting that all finished up, and so shouldn't be too much longer now. You'll be able to get those SD60Ms back on the main line. Let's see. What else do we have here? Well, we're running out of time quick, so I better, while I show you a few things, be thinking of 1 or 2 good questions you might want to ask that I can answer for you here before we pull the pin. But I did want to share something with you guys. Recently, myself and some of the other team got to meet the other part of the team out in California. And while we were out there, we got a chance to visit the Steve Mayhem's Pacific Coastlines railroad layout. And I'm just going to give you a sneak peek. If you haven't seen us posted on our Facebook page yet, go to our YouTube channel, the Athearn YouTube channel, and check this out. I'm going to go ahead and share this and make sure the sound isn't playing, and go ahead and pop that up for you. So what they're showing here, this is a massive layout built basically in a warehouse. And believe it or not, they've only been working on it just a little bit less than a year. So it's amazing the amount of work that has gone into this layout. And we got a great tour from Vic, who showed us. And as you can see, we've got Janik there. Janik joined me to show us some of the new products that are going to be hitting the store shelves soon. We had Mark there. He was running the big boy. It's a fun little video. It's a short video. Take a look at it, and I'm sure we're going to see more of the Pacific Coastlines Railroad in future videos. Okay, something else I wanted to show you. Last week we talked about the GP7s that are in stock right now at your dealer. If you pre-ordered them, you've probably already gotten the phone call from your dealer. But these are in stock right now. I'm going to, a little bit of magic here. I'm going to switch over. Look what's in the studio. Look at these beautiful FP7s. These are the Genesis line FP7s. Okay, so we've got starting here, we've got the Chicago Northwestern. There's the FP7A passenger unit. This one has sound. Of course, all of these have sound. You can get them with or without sound. Really cool. Look at the details on this. Look at what Chicago Northwestern did this. They blanked out their top Mars rotating light. Chicago Northwestern was known for putting a bell in there sometimes too. They did some really neat things with their F units. Right next to it, really eye-catching paint scheme, the St. Louis and Southwestern. You can see that the Genesis locomotives do have the interior. You can just see with the St. Louis Southwestern locomotive, that interior. Right next to that, we've got the eye-catching Southern Pacific Black Widow paint scheme. One of the really cool paint schemes of the Southern Pacific. One that's lended itself really well to this type of locomotive. And then last but not least, this one's a little bit different. This is a prime for grime Western Pacific FP7. Now, it's hard to show at this angle, but what the developers did with this, they kind of dulled the aluminum a little bit. The Western Pacific logo on the side is kind of chipped and faded. It's really a locomotive that has really put in its time of service. So again, these are at your dealer now. If you pre-ordered these, your dealer will be giving you a call or shooting you an email. If you did not pre-order these, contact your favorite dealer or your favorite online retailer and see if one of these locomotives is in stock. But usually these go quick, so make sure you, if you didn't pre-order, make sure you call quickly, because within the last week or so, these have just came into stock. So, like I said, full show. We ran over a little bit here today. I've got time for one, maybe two questions. I'm going to take a look at here in the comments off to my right and see what we've got. Let's see. Got some good comments on the FP7s, especially the Chicago Northwestern. That one seems to be really popular. Yes, Vic is a prolific builder. He really is. Very talented. Nicholas, you wrote a lot there, so I'm going to go ahead and throw your comment on the screen. Jim, would Athearn ever do the NC DOT Piedmont Horizon PAX cars? Yes, they are very unique. The Amtrak service here in North Carolina, no one has ever made them before. Hint, hint. Oh, you're right. They're very unique. If you don't know what he's talking about, do a Google search on these. They are very unique. I don't know if we could do anything like that real soon, but the possibility of doing that in the future. If you've got some prototype information you want to share with the developers, we certainly want to talk to you. So go ahead, if you haven't done already, go to the Athearn page, go to contact us and the product suggestions and put that information in there. And if you don't mind, put a little bit of information in there too, because like I said, the developers are keeping a database. That database has information so that when that project, if it comes up, they can contact you to get some more information. So we appreciate that. And Nicholas, thanks for writing that in. Let's see. Got time for one more. Let's see. Lego Kid. I'm going to grab you too. A pretty good comment I want to grab. Are there possibilities to order undecorated locomotives in the near future? I always love painting and detailing a locomotive for a fantasy railroad. Well, here's the problem with undecorated locomotives. You would think they would be slightly cheaper than a decorated locomotive. That's really not the case, not the way modern factories are set up. Now, we have done undecorated items in the past. It doesn't necessarily mean we won't ever do undecorated again, but we don't typically do undecorated locomotives because they typically do not sell as well. We find that most people that do custom painting or fantasy roads like you were talking about are really a small number of folks. So within the Genesis line, within the Ready to Roll line, we've pretty much kept to what you see on the program on a weekly basis. Now, like I said, I won't discourage you. That doesn't mean we'll never do undecorated locomotives again. But currently, we don't have anything in the works for any undecorated locomotives. But I thank you for your question. All right. Well, it looks like we have reached the end of another Train Tuesday. I want to thank you all for coming on board and spending some time with me, talking about the new stuff that's coming out. Don't forget, you have until Friday the 27th to get to your dealers, talk to them to pre-order anything that we talked about today or what we talked about last week. If you need a refresher, go to athearn.com, select the new announcements, scroll down until you get to the piece of equipment that you're interested in. You can look at the PDF, and you can also look at the complete lineup. And don't forget, too, many of our freight cars are offered in singles as well as 3-packs. So it's a lot easier now to make up your freight train for your layout. So until we meet again next time, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some modeling, and above all, high greens, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you next Tuesday.